I'm Tim McVeigh, Vice President and General Manager of WSB-TV. The recent protests in Atlanta, sparked by the violence around the country, raised serious concerns for all of us. So tonight, we're bringing together local residents, community leaders, and law enforcement to give voice to those issues and discuss viable solutions. Stay with us for this important primetime special.
Turning anger into action. Atlanta activists are demanding change, and the city is listening.
While this was a good meeting, it does not mean that we will agree on everything.
Deadly police shootings, officers ambushed and killed. How do we rebuild trust and resolve our differences?
Everyone right now focus on words and actions that can unite this country rather than divide it further.
Now, Atlanta Unite, a Channel 2 special with Jovita Moore and Craig Lucy.
Live from the Center of Civil and Human Rights in downtown Atlanta, a place that connects the American civil rights movement to today's global human rights movement. We are here along with a live audience of community leaders, police, and local citizens, and we thank you for joining us right here on Channel 2. Good evening, and welcome to our Channel 2 primetime special, Atlanta Unite.
This place is the perfect setting for us to dive deeply into the controversial, the uncomfortable topic of race relations. We're not here just to talk about the tragic headlines in our community and across the country. We want to spark conversation tonight that can lead to solutions.
That's right. In order for Atlanta to unite, there are two important questions to ask. How did we get to where we are now, and where do we go from here? The nation's eyes are once again focused on Baton Rouge after yet another deadly attack on police. A former Marine shot 6 officers, killing 3 of them, less than a mile away from police headquarters.
He ended up going around to the back of the car, and the officer literally on our driver's side of the car, shooting over us.
The city still reeling after cell phone video caught police killing a black man in front of a convenience store July 5th. A day later, in Minnesota, the killing of another black man played out on Facebook Live.
I told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand out.
Watching it all unfold, a 4-year-old girl who is later heard comforting her mother.
It's okay, I'm right here with you.
And then on July 7th, the black gunman ambushed white officers at a Black Lives Matter march in Texas. 5 officers lost their lives in Dallas. In the days that followed, the violence across the country pushed tempers here in metro Atlanta to a boiling point.
A big group of those demonstrators ended up here on the Williams Street ramp onto the connector.
A movement organized on social media drew thousands into downtown Atlanta. Streets overflowed with demonstrators.
No justice, no peace.
And nearby, officers stood firm and kept the protests from spilling onto the interstate. The images drew comparisons to the civil rights protests and criticism from those very leaders who laid that groundwork.
They're hurting themselves and their community that we've taken so long to build for them.
America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. And now these incidents are forcing us to take a look at the festering problem of race relations in our country.
I'm here to insist that we are not as divided as we seem. And I know that because I know America.
And here in the metro area, in Gwinnett, in Paulding, Douglas, DeKalb, and Rockdale counties, they came together to do some soul searching. Today's activists are using social media to affect change in ways few could have imagined even just 10 years ago. So quickly, how many of you in this audience have a social media account? 2 accounts. How many of you have 3 or more social media accounts? And that shows you, that's a testament to just how we communicate these days. As we begin this community discussion on race, you can send us your thoughts and your questions and your comments. Channel 2's Fred Blankenship is live in our newsroom gathering those comments for us. Fred?
Javita, as you know, social media is a big part of how we communicate. And tonight, we have a team of producers who are going to be reading your comments and your questions about what is being said, what is not being said, and your thoughts about how to bring this conversation forward to unite Atlanta. And through our social media platforms, we'd like you to get involved with the hashtag #AtlantaUnite. Once again, #AtlantaUnite. This is a big, important conversation that we need to have, and we're going to have it for you tonight through our social media platforms online. Javita, back to you.
So use the hashtag #AtlantaUnite to get into the conversation. So thank you, Fred. We'll be checking back with you throughout this evening. Now, the dialogue on improving community relations is already underway, so we're glad to see that. Atlanta's Mayor, Kasim Reed, met for hours just yesterday with local activists, listening to their concerns and working on ways now to move forward. The mayor and some of those activists are here with us tonight, and Craig, some of them had a list of concerns that they wanted addressed immediately.
Jovita, you are absolutely correct. Mayor Reed is here with us right now. Chief George Turner, thank you guys for being here with us. You had this meeting yesterday. Can you go over what was discussed behind closed doors?
Sure. What we talked about were, we took 2 hours and then we had more than 40 people talk about what they felt. And so what I wanted was really an unfiltered review or an opportunity to have them say whatever was on their mind, and that's what they did. So they talked about the pressure that they believe that gentrification is creating in the city of Atlanta. There was an example of an individual who lives in a house at $60,000 and then their neighbors changed and all of a sudden their houses are right next to them were selling for $160,000 or $200,000, and they talked about their aunt or their grandmother and the impact that a changing Atlanta is having on them, and they said it in a direct fashion. There were other people that had really thoughtful examples. There was one young woman who said that our police officers should change rotations who have difficult beats. So for example, she said if you've got an officer who always has a challenging beat, that officer probably should be rotated so they're not constantly in a situation where they are having challenging neighborhood interactions. I thought that was very thoughtful. There was a young woman who said, who asked the question to myself and the chief, do our officers have mental health examinations every single year because of the stress that comes with being a police officer? I thought that was a substantive question. So literally for 2 hours, it was my opportunity really to just be quiet, and I had my entire cabinet available because what I wanted was the ability to answer a wide array of questions. And then we had 4 of the young people who I met with in the command vehicle who in person presented a list of 25 demands that they have placed on their website and that the city of Atlanta is going to respond to in writing. But this was an opportunity for everybody in a room to really stand up and express themselves, and as opposed to me hearing it through third parties or through television, really to get a feel for the passion and the anxiety and the frustration that people are experiencing right now, because I got a very real sense of it when I walked into the group of protesters on that Friday evening and when I was out in front of the governor's mansion later in that weekend.
And you mentioned the mental health evaluations. Chief George Turner, we want to ask you about that because that's what these activists have really been pushing for. What does the Atlanta Police Department do right now as far as that is concerned?
Well, first of all, we do a very thorough investigation on any police officer that we hire. We do a pretty significant mental health check on the individuals before we hire them. And then we now have a good opportunity to really try to engage our officers with peer counseling, as well as our chaplain program, as well as counseling through the Atlanta EAP program. And we understand that there are always challenges. If you look at the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing, the 6th pillar talks about officers' health and wellness. And for us, we know that we just had an event to talk about how these officers survive the kind of work that we ask them to do each and every day. And so it's important for us to continue to stay engaged, make sure that we're looking at our officers. We ask our officers to do some amazing things, to go out and be challenged by so many different things each and every day. But I'm confident that the professionalism of policing will stand up and do what we need to do. I think the event, the conversation that we had with the mayor and several of the young people throughout the city, it really gave us an idea of what we're doing. It's really about community policing. Community policing is starting by listening to each other, having dialogue, and trying to find common grounds on how we can do our work better and more and different.
And Mayor Reed, they made a list of these demands for your office. What is it that you really want to see from them? Because we saw you out there in front of the governor's mansion along with the chief. So what do you want to see from them as far as the way that they are acting out there on the streets, sometimes trying to shut down the downtown connector?
You know, I'm really hopeful that we'll just treat each other respectfully. One of the things that I've said is that our laws and our ordinances are going to be enforced. And so I understand the importance of protests. One of the reasons that I had great sensitivity is because when I looked into the eyes of the young people on Ivan Allen Boulevard, I saw people from the Atlanta University Center. There were 2 young people from Morehouse College who I had get in the car with me and tell me exactly what their issues were. And of course it caused me to think about the civil rights movement in the United States of America, which was birthed in the Atlanta University Center. And so that caused me to change my tone and to be more reflective. I would just ask for the same courtesy. And I do want to talk a bit about this issue about freeways. The reason that the issue about people walking onto a freeway unexpectedly is so challenging is because it puts everyone's life at risk. I mean, this could be your wife, my wife, our families driving down 75, 85, and they have to hit their brakes because of some unknown condition. That's not something that I can allow to happen. And so when I was talking to the protesters, I was just explaining that to them. There's something else that I said to them that night. There were a whole lot of folks from the Atlanta University Center, Georgia State, Emory, and Georgia Tech who were standing out there. And I asked them respectfully, please don't put me in a position to give you a police record. Because if I move forward with arrest tonight, you all are going to have arrest records. And so I was trying to avoid that because that seems to me to contribute to the pathology that we have a problem with, which is young black people, certainly black men, getting a criminal record of some kind and then being enveloped in a system that leads to more and more crime. So these were the things that were on my mind on that night and in the days since.
We're going to hear much more from both of you later on during the show. Right now, I want to go over to Jovita, who is with some of the leaders of these protesters.
That's right, Craig. Thank you so much. So now I want to welcome Mary Hook. She's with Black Lives Matter Atlanta. We've been seeing your organization and others, other groups who have formed over this past year or so, protesting around the streets of Atlanta, as the mayor and the chief just talked about. We've also been hearing a lot of differing messages. So tell me tonight, what is the focus of Black Lives Matter? What is it that your group wants to see here in Atlanta moving forward?
Moving forward, we want transparency and honesty. We want to be able to have a clear assessment of what the conditions of working class black folks really are. We want to make sure that it's understood that in order to model what it really means to be a city that is supporting the demands of the protesters, that we show that through our money, by divesting from the police and investing in the lives of our people, because we know that the greatest threat to public safety is not the highway and folks standing on it. Our people, we all drive in this traffic, we know how to brake, you know what I'm saying? The real threat to public safety is our people not being able to work, because nobody's caring when the homeless folks are walking up the side of the freeway asking for money, and that's real. Nobody's caring about that. And so I think we need to be honest about how we've gotten here and what it's going to take to actually peel back this militarized police force that you take very much pride in. However, our folks don't feel that way. And I know that there is a gap when some of our people are like, yes, we need police, but we also need to have a progressive thinking mayor that says if the only ammunition we have to deal with the issues and the violence and the things that's happening in our community is more police versus actually having solutions that allow for vocational rehab, that are feeding our homeless folks, that are putting people in homes and not cages, and we're not profiting off of their lives through the municipal court system, getting on private probation. That's what needs to change. And so actually, Mayor, I don't know exactly, you know, what has come out of or like what the next 10 steps are going to be. But I know as far as our people and what we're trying to do, we are in active resistance until something really changes. Active resistance. And that's why folks need to boycott the municipal court and not use it, because so many people are getting pulled into the municipal court on private probation and having to choose between paying their bills and having to pay court fines and fees. And we know that the city ordinance needs to be decriminalized. Do you know how many people, black men, who got arrested for weed possession in 2015? 2,500. Only 150 of those were white people. And that's a clear line saying that our community is being targeted. And you have progressive mayors like Tim over there, is that name Ted Lewis over there in Clarkston, that actually just passed an ordinance that they won't even arrest people for weed anymore. And we know in this nation that white folks are making billions of money off of an industry, and our people are going to jail for it. It's unacceptable.
And Mary, let me ask you the question, too, about the different groups that we've seen marching through the streets of Atlanta. And I understand you have plenty of concerns that can also be addressed another time, because I'm not sure that you were in the meeting yesterday. Right, okay. So we know that you weren't there, so there were other things that they talked about in that meeting. But the groups that we've seen around the streets, because there are concerns from other people around the city about how disruptive that can be. Do you think that there's a way that these different groups can work together, that perhaps instead of marches and demonstrations and protests, there could be other ways? You talk about an active, silent protest, but are there other things, do you think that these groups can come together to do?
I think that, you know, when it comes to how people want to express their righteous anger for the conditions that we have to see every day, to have to see our people with no dignity in our communities, like having to beg, having to see mothers and their children beg, our young babies selling water, we'll do anything for liberation. So I can't say that, and I'm sorry that those who enjoy the comforts of living in Atlanta and a city that is too busy to hate is certainly a city too busy to care. Right? And so for those of us that are having to, you know, have the inconvenience of going to the street and having to take to the street, we shouldn't have to do that in Atlanta. But all over the world, we see that black folks are still having to be in active resistance because white supremacy, capitalism, and racism are very much alive. Thank you to Dr. King. He gave us some foresight. And so our tactics and the ways in which we change our communities need to actually reflect that we heard what he said. Right? And so we need to be thinking about those solutions. And so the tactics we use ain't by any means necessary.
All right, Mary, I want to thank you for your comments. We did say that we wanted to have an open discussion here tonight. So these are clearly some feelings that we are getting from, I don't want to say the streets, but from people who are maybe not in certain positions and don't hold positions around our city. I think you speak for a lot of people. I hear a couple of amens in the room, even as Mary is speaking tonight. So I appreciate your comments, and thank you for adding that. I think that there certainly has to be more dialogue that happens between the groups that we've seen on the streets and those, you know, in positions of power, so that there could be more coherence, I guess, happening around the city. Mayor, I don't know if there's anything you want to add right now.
I'm happy to add something, I mean, so that we're having a conversation. She referenced homelessness. The Regional Commission on Homelessness noted less than 6 months ago that my administration, since we've been in office, has reduced homelessness by 50%. You say that we aren't doing anything. When I got elected mayor, every single recreation center in the city of Atlanta, with the exception of a third of them, were closed. Now 33 are opening, and we're seeing between 1,500 to 700 children every day. No, I didn't interrupt you, man. I didn't interrupt you. I let you say everything you wanted to say about this city and trash it, and I didn't interrupt at all. We have more young people in our summer program and in Camp Best Friends than we ever had in the history of the city of Atlanta. When I got elected mayor of Atlanta, unemployment in the city and in the region was in excess of 10%. That includes black people. The number today is below 5.6% because many of the initiatives that we have launched to bring people in. The Atlanta Workforce Development Agency was on the verge of being shuttered. Now it's viewed as a model in the state. It is training people for long-term jobs and long-term employment. Vine City and English Avenue are two of the most challenged zip codes in the city of Atlanta. I'm the person that secured a $30 million grant from President Obama's administration to leverage $400 million to invest in Vine City and English Avenue. And so while I appreciate all of the criticism you have, the posture that you all consistently take is we're bad no matter what we do. Now, we can sit down and have a conversation, and I can show you where we were when I walked in the office and we were in the worst economy that the United States has faced in 80 years, the worst recession that the city of Atlanta has faced in 80 years, and where we are today. And while we may be imperfect, so much of life is about direction. And so I remain open on all of the demands that Black Lives Matter and other civic activists are making, but I'm always going to be honest and tell you what I will and what I won't do. You said I should divest from the police department. 52% of the general fund goes to public safety, police, fire, and corrections. I can tell you that I'm not going to do that because philosophically we disagree. But what I will also tell you is if you have initiatives that you think that we need to fund, I have been able to get resources to expand the pie rather than reducing the pie. And so, you know, the demands that Black Lives has made is very clear. You all said that you didn't want APD officers or on the 25 list of demands in City of Atlanta schools. We're not in City of Atlanta schools. They have their own police department. So when you lead and when you say things, you have an obligation to at least make sure that what you're saying is valid or based in fact. And the fact of the matter is, we're not in APS schools. They have their own police department. And so what I would do is, on the 25 questions, you know what I said? I'll answer every single one. So at least you know where I stand. And once you know where I stand, if we don't agree, well, who is us? You do not represent all Black people. You do not represent the 50% of the folks who were homeless before I became mayor, who are not homeless anymore. You don't represent the veterans who by Veterans Day in 2016 are going to have functional zero homelessness. You weren't in my cabinet meeting on yesterday when we were launching an initiative with the Atlanta Housing Authority, Invest Atlanta, and the Atlanta Beltline to create more than 5,000 units of affordable housing. So you laid out your case and laid out mine. You have your us, and I care about all of you. So if you got 25 demands, if I could agree to 10, I want to. But I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I agree to 25. I'm not going to tell you that I won't partner with the Israeli police force. So I'm not going to tell you that. So, I mean, Javita, right? I mean, you said you wanted to have a conversation, so I listened about the de-investing in police. I said I'm not going to do that. The relationship that we have with the Israeli police force is essential to us being able to develop counterterrorism methods at a time when terrorism is becoming an increasing threat post-Paris, November 13th. So the people of Atlanta ought to know on November 13th in Paris, in less than 45 minutes, 100 people were murdered. Now that might not be your problem, but it is mine. You see, I'm the one that gets the calls at night. I'm the one that talks to the family of murder victims. I'm the one who gives the order for police officers to run into harm's way. I'm the guy who's got to figure out how to get new vests for my officers because they've got to run towards AR-15 fire.
Right.
I'm the one that hasn't figured that out. I'm the one that's getting calls from families asking me, why in the world do I have officers standing out defending protesters when there could have been copycats to what happened in Dallas? So you shared your reality, and I'm here tonight to share mine.
Right. Thank you, Mayor, for that. And we, of course, we know that there is, the mayor looks at things in a different prism, a bigger picture, more citywide issues, and we have people who are looking at more individual issues and just different points of view, which is why we also know that we're here, because this is what happens. We want to get back to a couple of things that we also have planned in the show. And the protests and the unrest that are happening here in the metro area and around the country, as we know, in the wake of the deadly shootings, have certainly put pressure on Congress to take a look at race relations around this country. It is an issue that no doubt will be discussed, we hope, at the Republican National Convention this week in Cleveland, Ohio. Channel 2's Justin Farmer is there. He joins us now live from the convention. Justin, we know that you met with several members of the Georgia delegation today.
Good evening, Javita. We're in Freedom Plaza tonight, just outside the convention hall. We had to get through several layers of security to get here. I've covered several conventions, as you know, Javita. I have never seen security as intense as it is, and I'm sure it's going to be the same way next week in Philadelphia. There's no question that the events in this country over the past few weeks, and really going all the way back to Ferguson, on the minds of the Georgia delegation. And I spoke with some of them today, and these folks tell me they believe this is an opportunity.
First, we have to acknowledge the fact in America that we do have an issue when it comes to policing and in the mass incarceration of people in this country, bottom line.
Ashley Bell is one of more than 70 delegates from Georgia at this Republican National Convention. He and the other delegates are here for a job, to officially select Donald Trump as the Republican nominee. But they're also well aware of the unrest in cities throughout America and the issue of race relations, particularly involving police.
So we can acknowledge it and then say, all right, well, it doesn't speak bad about every cop. It doesn't mean we don't need to support our police, because we do. They are our last line of defense, our first line of defense. So what do we do next? We have to talk about policies. So let's take the problem and let's pivot the policies.
Georgia U.S. Senator David Perdue talked to us here in Cleveland about the issue shortly after learning about Sunday's police killings in Baton Rouge.
It's devastating for the people involved, but we've got to find a way to bring America together again. I think what we have to do is basically start talking to people about what we agree on and not what we disagree on. This is a country that right now is in great peril, in my view. The foreign policy situation, the global security issue, we've got our own economic issues here. A lot of people are feeling the pain, trying to get from payday to payday.
Fostering the relationship between police and communities they serve is key. Today, Georgia Governor Nathan Deal told us about a plan to put that in place.
For example, making sure that our law enforcement officers who are being trained by the state at our state facilities have included in that training sensitivity to communities.
Delegate Bell says communication's key, along with finding a way to improve the relationships between police and communities.
But how can we make sure that our police officers have what they need to protect us? And what can we do to get people in these communities who have the most crime, to have those kids have enough inspiration to want to be a police officer, to come back and help police their own neighborhoods?
So back here live in Cleveland, and the topic of race relations, the violence that we've seen in America, is a discussion. And so far, fortunately, it's just been a discussion. There's been a little bit of unrest outside this perimeter, but it hasn't been too intense or something nasty. However, we are hearing reports confirmed several times now that there are a group of people planning to throw balloons filled with urine tonight to the people who leave this convention center at the end of the evening. Let's hope that doesn't come to fruition. In Cleveland, Justin Farmer, Channel 2 Action News. Now, Craig, back to you in Atlanta.
All right, Justin, let's certainly hope that things remain calm. Well, there's no denying the impact of smartphones and social media. The fact that they have played such a huge role in these protests, following these deadly shootings, and all the protests that have really followed throughout the country and right here in Atlanta. Joining me now is Jake Gall, social media and marketing instructor from Georgia State University. Jake, what we see today, a lot of people, when they see their social media feeds, they take that as fact. What are you telling all of your students?
Well, there's certainly a little more to it than that. The wonderful thing about social media is that today everyone can have a voice, and we can hear those voices from across the world. But when we are seeking truth, we might need to dig a little bit deeper beyond just the surface. The fact that everybody has a voice in social media doesn't always mean that everybody is correct about their observations, or that they were there at an event to witness the truth, or that their scientific hypothesis was actually the case. So we sometimes forget that. Some headlines, some tweets look so tempting to believe and to reshare that we do so without vetting them, without actually checking the sources, double-checking them. I think we've all been victim to that, to clicking on links that were just link bait, showing ads and showing content that really was nothing close to the truth at all.
And share with us just your take on what you've seen unfold since these deadly shootings in Minnesota and Louisiana, and what are your students saying about how much social media has played a role in getting these protesters gathered out there on the streets?
It's a complex question, and in some cases social media has worked really well in terms of organized protests, and it also has fueled more chaotic protests. So there's a lot of instances where social media is used as the message, and the question is, well, how directed is that message? How clear is it to what somebody actually wants to achieve when they talk about a nonviolent protest, for example? Is that message received by every user, everybody that's reading that tweet or reading that Facebook post in the group, etc., before they react automatically? Because we're able to see immediate social content and videos, etc., then there's a tendency sometimes to react immediately. Even though social media actually gives us a great resource to double-check sources and the intelligence and the science and fact behind them, we don't always use it that way.
It is certainly immediate. Thank you so much, Jake, for being with us. Right now, we want to go back to the WSB newsroom where Fred Blankenship is monitoring the comments and questions coming in right now on social media. Fred?
Correct. We wanted the conversation, and we certainly do have it. Our team here is monitoring the conversation going on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. We have some great questions and comments that have been coming in. I'm going to read a couple to you right now. What will you have in place when police officers arrest those with diagnosed mental disabilities? That's from Deborah Zellner. Our next question. Was there any discussion about non-lethal force and the instances where it is most necessary for those measures to be used? Consuelo Brown. Our third question, are applicants allowed to join the force if suffering from PTSD? Timothy Bell. We asked for your questions and comments. They are coming in right here. This is a very important conversation. We also want to let you know how you can get involved and how we can start a conversation and we can get to know each other a bit better. It's a campaign and a program called Get to Know Me. And what Get to Know Me is that you can take your smartphone out here and you can make a 25-second video. Give me your name, give us what you do, and give us something unique about you. And also something that you might not know just by looking at you. You might not know by looking at me that I believe that positivity wins the day. I believe I don't have bad days. I believe that I just make the most with what I have. How about you? Here are a few examples.
I'm Jocelyn Dorsey. You've seen me here on Channel 2 for more than 40 years, on camera as a former news reporter and anchor, and now a voice for the community. But off camera, I'm a grandmother, an Ohio State Buckeye, a knitter, and a biker. I even rode my motorcycle from Alaska to Key West, Florida for Special Olympics. So don't judge what you see. Get to know me.
I'm Stephen Bowman, a soccer player for the U.S. Paralympic national team. I had a traumatic brain injury in 2013 when a bicyclist hit me while I was jogging. Dribbling the ball around, doing those type of stuff helped me kind of that mentality of not giving up, and that's what helped me kind of learn to walk again. I am an aerospace engineer and a proud Georgia Tech graduate, and I happen to be gay. So don't judge based on what you see. Get to know me.
So make sure you use the hashtag #GetToKnowMe. Upload your video. We're going to share it across all our platforms. And make sure you keep your comments and your questions coming. I'll be reading them all night long.
When Atlanta unite, our community conversation continues.
And I found myself pleading to them to just be seen as a human being.
Here in Atlanta, young black men share their life-changing encounters with police officers. This Atlanta teenager's hip-hop rap poem about race has gone viral. Should his race play a role in the controversy?
To be honest, being privileged is awesome.
Channel 2 anchor Craig Lucy suits up for an overnight ride on the streets with local police. You'll see a side of the officers rarely seen.
You ever get nervous?
Yeah.
A city too busy to hate, even in the midst of civil change. The goal that kept order in Atlanta while riots erupted across the country.
Everything we did, however militant it may have seemed at the time, was moving toward bringing people together.
Atlanta Unite is a family-to-family special brought to you by Northside Hospital, American Signature Furniture, Southwest Airlines, Kroger, and Scana Energy.
I should take this. Okay. Hey, Mom. Thanks again for watching Kiss Them. Go. Hi, I'm Mike, and I I signed up for auto renewal with Scanner. I don't worry about my natural gas anymore because my rate plan renews automatically. And I can do this.
Enroll in the new automatic renewal plan exclusively from Scanner.
We're next.
Nope.
I'll see you in the parking lot.
TitleMax makes it easy to turn your title into cash. Just go to TitleMax.com. Find out how much you can get.
Using TitleMax, I got $1,400.
$3,200.
TitleMax got me $9,700.
Have a pawn with a competitor? Come in and compare rates. We'll meet or beat a competitor's rate. Try TitleMax for the amount you need. Find out why so many people are saying,
I got my title back with TitleMax.
Get your title back with TitleMax.
As America's longest-lasting pickups, Ram's continued leadership is eye-opening. Like Ram 3500 with the best towing and the best torque. And Ram 1500 with the best fuel economy. It's no wonder more people are driving Ram trucks than ever before. Join us now during the Ram Summer Clearance Event. Get 0.9% APR for up to $11,200 in total values on select 2016 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab models in dealer stock.
I went against my instincts and I called the cable company to install my alarm. And really, I should have known better. They can barely keep my TV signal on. So after 3 days, I called Ackerman and they had my house protected that afternoon.
At Ackerman Security, we've been protecting families just like yours for over 40 years. For just $19.95 a month, you get burglary, fire, and medical alert monitoring. Already have a system and paying more? Switch for free and get up to 6 months free monitoring. Call 770-552-1111 or at AckermanSecurity.com.
Hey, your clearance. Yes, sir. You know, at the Model Year-End Clearance event, you can get a great deal on this 2016 Passat.
Steve.
Yeah.
Clarence is on a roll.
Yeah. Wish they'd name an event after me.
Same here. With the Model Year and Becky event.
That's no good. Steve-ent.
That's just vandalism.
Whatever you want to call it, don't miss the Volkswagen Model Year-End event. Hurry in and lease a 2016 Passat S for $179 a month after a $1,000 bonus.
Atlanta Unite, a Channel 2 special, continues now live from the National Center for Civil and Human Rights in downtown Atlanta with Jovita Moore and Craig Lucy.
After the demonstrations and the police shootings across the country, how do we come together as a community of citizens and police?
Tonight, people from all over the metro area, activists, residents, law enforcement, and city leaders have joined us here as we search for answers. Perhaps some of those solutions for the future come from our past. A familiar face, Channel 2's John Pruitt covered the civil rights movement and is live in our WSB-TV studio. John?
Craig, Jovita, Atlanta has a long history of building bridges between opposing factions and finding ways to reach common ground. In dealing with this current issue, city leaders are drawing on that history to keep the peace.
We have a saying in Atlanta that we are building a great city down there, and we haven't got time to engage in hate campaigns.
With those words, former Atlanta Mayor William B. Hartsfield set the tone that has served Atlanta well for the past half-century. As civil rights protests swept through the South,
we do not want to wait 50 years for our rights. We don't want to wait 25 years for our rights. We want all of our rights. We want them here, and we want them now.
some cities tried to shut down the movement with force and massive arrests. Atlanta chose a different path. Business leaders led by Coca-Cola magnate Robert Woodruff realized the inevitability of desegregation and worked behind the scenes to ensure Atlanta emerged from the social revolution as a leading progressive city of the New South. Mayor Ivan Allen Jr., a pillar of the white power structure, guided the city through the turbulent 60s, eventually becoming a civil rights advocate. Atlanta's strong black middle class, with leaders from the religious, business, and academic communities, engaged in dialogue with leaders in the white community. A movement leader who later became mayor says the goal was always to unite the community.
Everything we did, however militant it may have seemed at the time, was moving toward bringing people together. And I hope that that's what this does.
It wasn't easy, but progress was made without violent upheaval. The ability of a diverse community to sit down and talk about problems and find solutions is what's become known as the Atlanta Way. The assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. led to riots in many cities, but not Atlanta. Upon getting the news, Mayor Allen rushed to assist Coretta King in getting the flight to Memphis, a gesture that spoke volumes.
I had the difficult task of telling Mrs. King of his death.
The tone was set, and Mayor Allen, black leaders, and a virtually all-white police force held things together in a time of national crisis. The Atlanta Way. Our city has had a succession of mayors who subscribe to the Atlanta Way, including Kasim Reed, who now faces the city's latest challenge. Former Mayor Sam Massell praised him, and the police department's restrained yet firm stance.
I think that they have stood tall and addressed the issues in an orderly, peaceful manner.
The progressive image Atlanta earned during the civil rights era set the stage for the massive economic development that we've seen here over the past 50 years, not to mention the Olympic Games and a host of other major events. It's a history lesson worth remembering as Atlanta faces this latest challenge.
Of course, John, thank you so much. The Atlanta Way, we always appreciate John's insight. Thank you for joining us. Now, black law enforcement leaders from around the country are meeting right now this week for their annual convention in Washington, D.C.
And that group is known as Noble. As they meet this week, they are closely watching what's unfolding in Louisiana. Police and citizen safety are its top priorities. Channel 2's Monica Pearson is at that convention, and she joined us live from the nation's capital. Monica?
Thank you very much, Craig and Jovita. Well, the mission of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives has been the same for 40 years. It's to ensure equity and justice and solutions to issues and concerns of law enforcement as well as the communities they serve. Now, this is how the new national president, Perry Tarrant of Seattle, says Noble will do it.
How do we get people to trust and sustain trust?
And Noble's going to do that nationally by?
One of our programs is called The Law in Your Community, and it's intended to engage youth and adults in a conversation about what your rights are, how to exercise your rights, when do you exercise your rights, and more importantly, what you can expect behavior-wise from an officer, why the officer does what he or she does, so that we take the guessing out of it.
For Georgia Noble President Robert Ford, it's all about police officer standards and requirements for psychological testing.
As department heads and leaders in law enforcement, we need to be conscious of what these officers may be going through, and it may be time to make mandatory testing, whether it's 1 year, every 3 years, every 5 years, to make sure that we're getting these officers the help that they need.
For Moses Ector, it's about training the next generation of police.
And we're teaching them to think about things before they do it, that you're dealing with a new kind of citizen. You're dealing with young people that are full of rage, and you've got to learn how to identify that rage and not be so quick as to shoot. So we're teaching them community policing, de-escalation, learning the communities that they live in, and then realize that situations of conflict, we can deal with them through verbal judo. We've got to refocus our training on the use of deadly force. You know, we've got to get the community saying we're in this together, because we're at the crossroads now. Police officers fear for their lives now when they stop someone, and you fear that the police is going to hurt you for no reason whatsoever. So somewhere we've got to bridge that gap, and that's what we're teaching our officers now.
I also spoke with the Sheriff of Rockdale County, Eric Levitt, who says he has a program he'll be unveiling soon that works directly with young people between the ages of 16 and 28. He'll unveil that soon. That's all he would tell me. Now, he says it's about rebuilding trust, it's about communication, and it's about respect on both sides. I'm here because my husband has been in law enforcement for 35 years. He believes that really community policing is the answer, but he also believes that both sides have got to learn to trust each other again. I'm Monica Pearson reporting live in Washington, D.C. Jovita and Craig.
Monica, thank you so much for that insight. Now, surveys taken in recent days show that most Americans believe that race relations are now at an all-time low. So, with all of you guys here with us tonight, how many of you agree with that? Just give us a show of your hands. All-time low. Okay, you, sir. Why do you feel, if you could stand up, why do you feel like race relations are at an all-time low right now?
Because I think it started when President Obama was elected. And there was a very groundswell of anger towards him, a black president, and it continued in our society. It was interesting. I was at a gas station shortly after he was elected. There was a white man there pumping his gas. He noticed me, and he said real loud so everybody could hear. He said, "It's not the White House. It's the black house," and then drove away. There was a white woman at the end of the island, and I turned to her and I said, "Well, I'm going to pray for him and hope that nobody else is in his way when he's out driving." I think that whole feeling has permeated in our country. Unfortunately, it's not everybody that feels that way, but it's a very, very difficult time when people are trying to understand the reasons why there's anger. And that's a very large problem. It's a systemic problem. And it's not something that's going to be easily addressed, but has to be addressed. And because there's uncertainty, because there's folks are unaware of the issues, then there's a lot of anger because you don't understand. And I think on both sides of the aisle, the white perspectives, black perspectives, I think we need to come together. Because if we don't, this is going to continue. If we don't listen to each other, everybody's got an issue, everybody's got a right to speak. We need to listen to folks, and that's what's not happening.
And that's what we're doing right here. We are talking and having this conversation, and everybody is listening. I also want to share with our audience, an audience member. His name is John Burnsong, and he emailed our producer saying, "You believe things will get better, and you spoke about the water fountain generation." John's right here. Please share with us exactly what you meant when you were saying the water fountain generation.
Yeah, thank you for having me out tonight. I was born in the 80s. I did not grow up with the images of dogs. I did not grow up with the images of water fountains or water hoses. I grew up with a lot of friends who are of color. They were at my wedding. And I think a big reason that there are so many friends that have grown up, regardless of races, from the generations before. And I don't know if it's a millennial thing, but the reason I'm here is not only to talk about my perspective around America has been through worse. And we are at a point where our generation will do a disservice to the older generation if we don't take note and we don't understand how they did it. For example, the Black Lives Matter movement is just like the Civil Rights Movement, but it is a movement. It is not an organization. Ralph Abernathy, Martin Luther King Jr., these guys all organized really well. And I applaud you, but I still can't believe that I can't go online right now and donate money to an organization that will go and fight the system with the system. And there are so many incredibly talented black lawyers that if we are able to help them fight the system with the system, white lawyers, black lawyers, that is something that we can fight the system, but the organization has to be there. The SCLC, I want to see that in the Black Lives Matter movement. That is not an organization. There's a difference. We need core values, and injustice is the biggest thing that we are all fighting today.
Thank you so much for your being here tonight and also sharing those words. Jovita, I'm going to send it back over to you.
I'm joined now by Al Vivian. He is president and CEO of Basic Diversity Incorporated here in Atlanta. Speaking of civil rights leaders, Al is the son of Reverend C.T. Vivian, who, as you know, worked closely with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So, Al, from your perspective, talk about now where we stand on race relations and why in 2016 do you think it's still so uncomfortable for us to have these conversations?
Good questions. I think that right now, where we stand is similar to the opening lines of that old Dickens tale, A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. So we're seeing things like a black president, we're seeing black attorney general, we're seeing African-American CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. But at the same time, we're also seeing unequitably funded school systems, unequitably funded, you name it. I mean, we don't get paid the same on the job, even with the same background, experience, etc. So you see that, and it's good and it's bad. Why are we afraid to have the conversations in 2016? Quite frankly, whenever there are conversations about dominant and non-dominant groups, and notice I didn't use the term majority-minority, because you can be the dominant, you can be majority and still be the non-dominant group. Like women outnumber men in America, but men still get to call all the shots. So whenever you have those kind of issues, the dominant group is afraid to deal with the fact that they have advantages that no one else has. And because we were taught to believe in this nation that we all have the same opportunities, regardless of race, creed, color, sex, national origin, having honest dialogue about these topics makes people in dominant groups realize that no, things are not as fair as we think they are. And that's very uncomfortable if you've been forced to believe and led to believe that everybody has the same shot, and we really don't.
So talk about going forward. What do you think we need to do now? Once we leave this room, what should we be doing going forward?
A great question. I think we need to deal with our implicit biases that we all have. Our brains are phenomenally designed by God so that we can make quick decisions. There's anywhere between 10 million to 11 million bits of information coming at us at all times. We can only analyze at most 40 bits of information. So what our brains do is they make decisions for us based on patterns that have been established over our lifetime. So if we've been told that certain groups can't be trusted, then when we see people coming in our direction who belong to those groups, we will make the decisions based on our implicit biases as opposed to logically, rationally thinking things out. So we need to figure out what our own biases are. And by the way, that usually entails someone else telling you what your biases are, because we don't tend to see our own implicit biases. So you have to surround yourself with people who have different life experiences and start having deep dialogue. You got to get some cultural informants, people who are nothing like you, and have them tell you about their life and what it's really like being them. And that's not just on race, and that's not just black, white. That's also, if you're talking Latinos and Asians and Arabs and Native Americans, if you're talking Muslims, for those of us who are Christian, need to understand their culture better. It's talking to people that are nothing like you and finding out about their realities in America.
All right, Al Vivian, thank you so much with Basic Diversity. Of course, we are talking about Get to Know Me as well. So we thank you for being here. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
When Atlanta Unite, a community conversation returns.
But I can't help being black. I was born black.
The color of justice, questions about race, and whether justice is really blind.
It's almost like we're living in two different Americas.
The relationship between police and the community through the eyes of local officers.
There's so much good that I see we do. It really is a little disheartening that the bad is focused on.
Channel 2 anchor Craig Lucy uncovered what officers are doing to build trust.
Hey, white boys, it's time to act like a woman, to be strong and make a difference.
And a blunt message on race. We talked to the local poet who says he is using white privilege to bridge the racial divide.
Hi, I'm Eric, the research director at WSB-TV Channel 2. Outside of work, I love to cook. I'm a father and a husband, but my first love was Motown, the soundtrack to growing up in the Motor City. I can tell you all kinds of little-known facts, such as Motown first recorded Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech in Detroit weeks before the March on Washington. So don't just judge what you see, get to know me.
Tell your story. Use hashtag #GetToKnowMe. Channel 2, community coverage you can count on.
Every child should start school with the supplies they need to succeed.
So help Channel 2 as we partner with the Children's Restoration Network to stuff the bus.
Last year, every child in a shelter or a group home throughout the 20-county greater Atlanta area got a brand new stuffed backpack.
We're getting our supplies together, but we need your help.
Join us July 23rd and stuff the bus. For a list of supplies and locations, visit WSB-TV.com/stuffthebus.
We're coming to you, greater Atlanta.
American Signature Furniture presents how to get inspired. First, get inspired. Okay, that's not doing it. Go out. Look around. Shop the boutiques.
Get up, Carl.
Find something you love. When you're ready to buy, head to American Signature Furniture, where you can always find furniture just like at the boutiques, but at prices that will make you much more comfortable.
That's perfect.
And that's how to buy the perfect piece at American Signature Furniture.
You hear that? That's the sound of our summer sale firing up its engines, with fares as low as $69 one way. So get ready to take off, because sale prices as low as these don't happen every day. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Low fares, nothing to hide. That's transparency.
Did you know that with the help of Kroger customers, 2.9 million meals are donated each year to families in need? Or that by shopping with us locally, you helped us give more than $7.5 million to community programs? Kroger makes donations to organizations such as the United Way, the Children's Miracle Network, the Muscular Dystrophy Association, the ALS Association, and others.
I'm Bruce Lucia, president of Kroger. Your support makes it possible to feed, share, and care for so many. You inspire us every day. Thank you from all of us at Kroger.
4x for being one with the water, sand, and the land. For those that let the open air guide them. For inspired style, matched only by what it stands for. Jeep Cherokee. It's how we live 4x for summer. During the summer of Jeep, lessees of competitive vehicles get $5,250 total cash allowance on the purchase of a 2016 Cherokee Limited.
Now, back to Atlanta Unite, a Channel 2 special from the National Center for Civil and Human Rights in downtown Atlanta with Jovita Moore and Craig Lucy.
And as we move along here tonight, we want to quickly look at some of the numbers behind the police-related shootings.
So far this year, police have shot and killed 532 people here in the U.S. That's according to the Washington Post. The report found whites made up the majority of those killed at 245, followed by 131 blacks and 80 Hispanics. Now, look at some of these percentages. Those numbers showed 46% of the police shootings involved whites. The last census showed whites were 72% of the population. 15% of the deadly shootings involved Hispanics, who are 16% of the population. 24% of this year's deadly police shootings involved blacks, even though they're 13% of the population.
One of the common complaints is that police are stopping people who fit a certain profile. Channel 2's Dave Huddleston is live in Cleveland tonight. He's covering the Republican National Convention this week.
And Jovita, before coming here to Cleveland, I sat down with a group of young men at Ebenezer Baptist Church. They told me one of the things that's very difficult for African Americans is that some officers assume they've done something wrong based on where they're driving, what they're driving, and the color of their skin. A university honor student, a young professional, even a church pastor. If you could show by raising your hand if you've been stopped by the police and you thought it was unfair. All three raised their hand.
So we had to get out of the car, and and they just wanted to see, where we were going. Just wanted to run the license plate, make sure everything was all right.
It sounds like you just knew to get out of the car.
I just, wanted to cooperate. You see everything that's going on in the media these days. You don't want to start arguing, make anybody feel as though you're being hostile.
20-year-old Ryan Bolton says while at Syracuse University, a cop stopped he and his friend and pulled a gun on them. They were walking down the street with music equipment after DJing a school dance.
Honestly, one of the most shocking experiences, and it's just one of those things where it's like, why is this happening to me?
Especially because Ryan's father is a police chief.
And it's somewhat saddened me that I had to basically plead to them, and I found myself pleading to them to just be seen as a human being.
How frustrating have you heard from other people like Ryan and Spencer, and for yourself, has this been for African Americans, African American men?
No matter where you go, like you could be college educated, you could have all the credentials that people say that makes you different from everybody else, but when at the end of the day, He's on a college campus where he's supposed to be, as everybody else says, he still gets a gun pulled out on him there.
You wonder if you were a different shade or a different color, coming from a different ethnic background, if you'll be treated the same way. You know, we keep praying, we keep pushing and fighting to eventually get to where we want to go and where we will have that level of equality that we strive for. But it's very frustrating.
Pastor Mike says that frustration and recent deaths of black men at the hands of police is why people are protesting.
People have to genuinely care about people. You know, we think about this whole thing, we talk about Black Lives Matter, then the retort from some may be, all lives matter. Well, if all lives really matter, then we should have done something beforehand so we wouldn't have to say Black Lives Matter in the first place.
This doesn't classify all police. This classifies individuals that are part of the police force that have a racist mindset, that have a stereotypical mindset to marginalize certain groups of people.
So where do we go from here? All three say, back to the beginning.
It comes down to loving people again. And I feel like that's something this country is somewhat losing.
I guess it's that conversation about when people say, well, all cops aren't bad. Well, I need the good cops to say something. Don't let fear stop you from doing what's right. So if you see things happening within your precinct, within your team, you didn't take an oath of blue on blue, blue protect blue. You took an oath to serve and protect the people.
Remember while you're serving and protecting, and remember even though you may see so many brutal things as a police officer that may harden your heart, not to forget the goodness of people.
The group said nothing will change until people change their mind about how they feel about blacks and other races. They say even the founding fathers of this country that said all men are created equal were really only talking about land-owning white men, not the slaves who worked the plantations. Jovita?
Dave, thank you so much. In Cleveland tonight. Now, the issues many black men face with the police are similar to those faced by many in the Hispanic community. With me now, Chris Perlera from the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Chris, I want you to talk about how the Hispanic community is working with police as well as African-American groups here do in the metro area to help improve these relationships.
Absolutely, Jovita. You know, there's a significant effort going on in the Hispanic community to recognize and share the empathy and point of view that we share. We have many individuals from a wide spectrum of colors, and you know, from Afro-Latino to the lightest Latin American. And the reality is that this has been happening to the Latin American community as well, and we should be recognizing that this is not a plight of just the black community. This is a plight that we share as brothers and sisters in this community. Just this past month, we had about 6 individuals shot or murdered in cold blood, an individual that was about to commit suicide, and they were shot. An individual here in Georgia that because they were undocumented, they fled a DUI stopping, and they were shot in cold blood. This is something that we understand deeply, and the conversation now is about coming together with our leaders and our friends, our brothers and sisters in the black community, and coming together as a voice and understanding how we can work together, because we as individuals in that community, in our community, have been silent and we have not organized. And we see this as a time to come together and work hard at a solution and ensure that this is not just a plight shared by one community, but also others.
So you all have started that dialogue.
Yes.
Anything specific here in the Atlanta area that you can tell us about?
Here in the Atlanta area, that conversation mainly comes in the shape of young leaders, those of us that have had the opportunity to work closely together through organizations like Lead and Leadership Atlanta that had a tremendous turnout. These organizations facilitating conversation of what are the next steps, who do we need to get together in the room, and working with not just our government officials, but our business community, as well as our elected officials.
Chris, thank you so much for your perspective. Thank you for joining us tonight. Craig, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right, well, we wanted to get a very real, raw look at what local police are dealing with as they head out into our neighborhoods. Just last week, I went out on the overnight shift with one Atlanta police officer. It's approaching midnight. We meet at the Atlanta Police Department Zone 1 precinct, where we are given our bulletproof vest before we set out for a long night on the city's west side.
We're going to be rolling around. 103's beat the Bluff.
The Bluff has always been a high crime area. Zone 1 runs along Northside Drive near the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, along West Marietta Street to the other side of I-285, and down along I-20.
Yeah, this is a real high drug area.
I'm in the front seat with Atlanta Tactical Field Officer Chris Butler. We're on our way to our first call.
Sometimes they don't like talking to us.
Butler tells us people on these streets don't always give them a warm welcome while they're on patrol. We see that as we roll by a group hanging out in front of an abandoned church.
So he just called you a bitch.
They hear it all the time.
And he was just yelling, you know, F the police, nothing but racist.
Butler tells us he recently had a close call.
It was just a simple fight call, and we got there, and the guy comes running out of the house, all sweaty, very angry. And all he kept saying is, I want you to kill me, I want you to kill me, shoot me, shoot me. He came right at me. We just physically had to take him to the ground.
He never pulled his gun, but following the police shootings in Minnesota and Louisiana, Officer Butler says it's on everybody's mind when they get into a confrontation.
If this situation goes this way, how am I going to be portrayed? You know, there's two sides to everything. If you're doing your job right, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
What is it like for you being a white officer?
We definitely do get a lot of different looks, and a lot of times, you know, when you take somebody to jail, we will hear that, you know, you're just taking me to jail because you're racist.
For me, I just take it with a grain of salt. I know I'm not racist.
Sometimes it does get hard to hear, and it gets under your skin.
Our conversation comes to a pause.
I'm supposed to be fighting with her father, apparently.
She snatched away. Don't put your hands on me and then pull out some scissors. You touch me one more time, I'm gonna stick you. I said, oh, you gonna do your father like that? So when she turned her back, I picked up.
Officer Chris Butler says they have to constantly play the role of a third parent, as we witnessed with this 15-year-old girl.
You know the curfew is, right? Well, I guess what I don't understand, if there's a curfew, why don't you just go inside? I mean, he told you to go inside, right? So you just go inside.
No arrests. Our next call, a suspected drug house. I asked Butler to share his thoughts about the shooting of Philando Castile in Minnesota.
Why did that officer shoot him 4 times when there was a 4-year-old in the back seat?
You could also look at it like, you know, what we see. Well, I don't know your intentions. I don't know if you're going to do what I tell you to do. You know, are you going to do what I tell you to do? And that's what people don't understand. Like, I don't know you and you don't know me.
He has a way of putting things into perspective.
Out of 3,000 calls today in the city, how many people were shot and killed by police? 0.
As soon as we arrive to the suspected drug house, we hear pops in the distance.
2 gunshots. 2 gunshots.
As Officer Butler canvasses the side of the home, I see a familiar face from another Atlanta police story that I've covered.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
After the scene is checked out, Butler tells Officer Mark Smith where we're headed next.
We're going to ride where those gunshots were. I think it was over there.
We didn't see anything there. It's now approaching 4 a.m. when Butler is running license plates through his system. He pulls over this white SUV where an unlicensed teenager is out with her friends.
She doesn't have a driver's license at all.
At all.
Butler says he has no choice.
Turn around.
But after hearing her story, he has a change of heart. She just took a test to get into college. The car is her 85-year-old aunt's car, and she was taking it over to her brother's house. After he calls her aunt and she arrives, she gets a break. A break he says he gives many, but no one ever hears that story.
All right, like I said, you're going to get 2 tickets in school and go to college so you can have a better life, right?
A very real experience, and something that he told me when people out there in our community have a positive experience with the officers. For instance, if they recover the only car that you have, the car that you use to get to where you work, and they recover it. Share that out there on your social media pages and give Atlanta police some love, because right now he says the only thing that they're hearing is all of the negative.
All right, Craig, thank you so much. We're going to talk to the police chief of Atlanta as soon as we come back. I'm sorry, we're going to talk to the chief now. So, of course, this is certainly, and this is what happens on live TV, and also for the folks at home. And for those of you here in the audience, we're going to go until at least 9:30. So, Chief Turner, let's talk to you about how officers are maintaining a good relationship where some in the community are fearful of them.
Well, I think you have to look at Atlanta
as Atlanta. We talked about the history of Atlanta and what has happened. We hired our first black police officer in 1948, 20 years before the Civil Rights Bill of Voting Rights was passed. Then you look at the diversity of our department. I thought that the piece that you just showed was a prime example of what happens in the streets each and every day. You know, I've been policing for 35 years, and as I approach the end of my career, it's not the number of people that I've arrested that I think about. It's about the people's lives that I've changed, and the work that I've done is what I really concentrate on. I tell you, it's really about the kind of training that we are putting out there right now. If you look at the extensive training that we are providing our officers with, that particular officer that you rode with is part of our field training officers program as well as our tactical rifle program. That was a change in the way that we moved our tactics after the Paris attack and what we had to do to be aggressive, to be able to deal with issues as we're facing them. Mayor Reed was significant in that decision. We had to do something different. I tell you, it's about the way that we train. You look at the report that you talked about from the Washington Post. The state of Georgia is the 8th most populated state, but we're 42 as it relates to officer-involved incidents. And I think what you're seeing is that when you look at the largest police department in our state, the city of Atlanta, and look at what we're doing and the way that we've changed our work, that is reflective in that number. Thus far this year, we've had 3 officers-involved shootings. We've talked about this multiple occasions. Last year, we had more than 1.6 million encounters, documented encounters with citizens, and we had 9 officers-involved shootings. Now, any of those shootings are one too many, but the work that we are asked to do, as you rode in that car with that officer, we asked our officers to go into some of the most challenging communities in our city, and we asked them to perform professionally, and I think that they do a great job for our city.
And that particular officer, as we saw, we heard 2 gunshots, then another 2, and he said, let's go toward those gunshots.
That's right. That's exactly correct.
And he said he'd been working there for 5.5 years, and during that time, there was only 1 police-involved shooting, and in that instance, he said it was when a man charged an officer with a knife, and that officer shot the suspect, and it was in his hand. And in that case, he says it was a justified shooting.
Well, I will tell you, if you look at incidents, and we look at every officer-involved encounter, as well as any physical attachment that we have to apply force on an arrest, and we're looking at those encounters so that we can get better. We're doing everything we can to stress our officers in training so that when they get on the streets, that's not the first time they've been in a stressful situation. We're doing everything we can to do more situational-based training, and I think that the extensiveness of our training is leading our state, and I believe leading the southeastern portion of the United States.
Chief Turner, thank you so much. We need to wrap up now and take a break. We'll be right back.
Next on Atlanta Unite.
It's time to organize. It's time to make a change.
And I know why they're frustrated.
It seems like they're afraid of us, and we're afraid of them also.
A call for change in Metro Atlanta. And it's not just coming from the streets. The message from religious leaders.
Hi, I'm Richard Thomas, and I am one of the sales managers at WSB-TV Channel 2, and I'm a drummer in the station's rock band. I'm originally from South Windsor, Connecticut. Outside of work, I'm a husband and father of 2, and an 11-year volunteer with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. I'm also a huge NASCAR fan, and I love hockey too. So don't just judge what you see, get to know me.
Use hashtag #GetToKnowMe to tell your story. Channel 2, community coverage you can count on.
Only 5 calories and bubbling with fruit flavor? None of this makes sense.
TitleMax makes it easy to turn your title into cash. Just go to TitleMax.com. Find out how much you can get.
Using TitleMax, I got $1,400.
$3,200.
TitleMax got me $9,700.
Have a pawn with a competitor? Come in and compare rates. We'll meet or beat a competitor's rate. Try TitleMax for the amount you need. Find out why so many people are saying,
I got my title back with TitleMax.
Get your title back with TitleMax.
I like to use my backpack as a basket.
I use mine as a science experiment. As an emergency umbrella. To help feed a friend. A drum solo. I just use my backpack for books and stuff.
Embark backpacks, guaranteed for 1 year.
Honey, is the internet back yet?
Yes!
I need to let her know that I'd like this. I'd like.
I haven't seen a movie based on a comic book in so long.
I know.
We're over here, internet people!
Get high-speed internet from AT&T with over 99% reliability at an everyday price with no extra monthly fees. Keep calm, your internet's on.
The Honda Summer Clearance Event is here with incredible deals on the 2016 CR-V. Loaded with standard features like Bluetooth hands-free link and a multi-angle rear-view camera, it's no wonder the CR-V was named a Kelley Blue Book's KBB.com Best Buy for 2016. Hurry in to the Honda Summer Clearance Event and get a great deal at your local Honda dealer today.
Only 5 calories and bubbling with fruit flavor? None of this makes sense.
Live from the Center for Civil and Human Rights in downtown Atlanta, we welcome you back to Atlanta Unite, a community conversation. We're going over a little bit in time. Graciously, our general manager has said it's okay. This is an important conversation. We want folks at home to continue watching. We're going to go till about 9:30. And those of you in the audience, we thank you so much for staying with us.
Now, talking openly about race relations, as we all know, it's not easy. But one Metro Atlanta teenager has found a way to do it.
Fred Blankenship joins us now once again from our newsroom with a poem about race relations that went viral. Fred?
It certainly is, and the name alone gets your attention. White Boy Privilege, performed by 14-year-old Royce Mann at his first poetry slam at his school. And here's some of it.
Hey, white boys, it's time to act like a woman, to be strong and make a difference. It's time to let go of that fear. It's time to take that ladder and turn it into a bridge.
And as you can tell, he held nothing back during that. And joining me now is Royce Mann. Royce, pleasure to see you, my friend.
Great to see you.
What made you want to get involved in this conversation in terms of talking about race, relations, and what goes along with this? What made you want to lend your voice to it?
Yeah, I took a class this year in school called Race, Class, and Gender, and that made me a lot more aware of these issues because I had definitely known about privilege and injustices in the world, whether it's racism, whether it's sexism, but I had never really related it to my own life.
Royce, right now I want to bring your mom in because I know, and Sherry, pleasure to see you. We all want to protect our kids. And whenever you hear that your child is going to be putting himself on this kind of platform, on this type of subject matter, what did you think about this?
Well, all I actually knew in the beginning was that he wrote a poem for school. So everything else that's come after has been a bit of a surprise. But as there are some nerves involved, but we certainly don't want to discourage him at all. We're very proud of him, proud of what he's saying, and we certainly believe in what he's saying, and it seems that it's really struck a nerve for a lot of people, in many people in a very good way. Many people are writing to us and saying how inspired they are and how it gives them hope for the future, and it makes them get up and do something about these issues as well.
And Roy, so you know, we've seen your passion. We've seen what you can deliver. What do you want people to really know about what you are trying to say?
Yeah, I just want people to be more aware of these issues. I mean, I'm just trying to do my part to, when I see injustices in this world, to point them out. And I've not always done that. I mean, I've many times in my life been the bystander to people insulting people just because of their skin color or gender and not said anything. And then when I took this class this year and thought more about these issues, I realized that I should at least speak up, because that's really the least I can do, is speak up for the people who the world won't listen to just because of their skin color or their gender. And so I'm just trying to take one of these privileges that I have, which is the privilege of having people listen to me, and use that for good.
Royce, you have amazing passion. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And good luck to you in all endeavors. Thank you very much for you being here.
Thank you so much for having us on.
All right. Craig and Jovita?
I'll take it, Fred, and thank you. Since the police shootings, there's been an outpouring of support from ordinary residents to the men and women who serve on the force. There are many ways that you can help. Joining us now, Dave Wilkinson, President and CEO of the Atlanta Police Foundation. Dave, explain to us about the Secure Neighborhoods program, where you are having police officers go into these communities and they're actually living in these communities.
Well, thank you, Craig. The Police Foundation, of course, is a nonprofit organization that serves as a public-private partnership to support the mayor and the chief of police and the community to work together to build a safer city. The chief mentioned community policing earlier, and there's no better strategy for community policing than police officers actually living in the community in which they serve. So as Craig mentioned, the Secure Neighborhood Initiative is designed to provide incentives and housing for police officers to move into those communities that they serve. Since Mayor Reed took office and Chief Turner's become the chief, we've been able to increase the number of officers in the city of Atlanta from 16% to now 24% of the officers now live in the city. We're proud of that, but of course, in a perfect world, we'd have 100% of the officers living there. But these officers are moving into the communities basically, and they're charged with engaging the residents, basically mentoring the youth in the communities, those sort of things. As an example, on the west side right now, we're partnering with Pulte Homes to build homes for police officers, up to 25 homes. They've just broken ground on the first 5 homes. And these officers have already been selected. These officers are going to move into this community. And again, they will be charged with mentoring the youth in the community, serving as sort of that cop on the block, if you will, and serving to engage the residents in the community and create a better relationship and a better liaison with the police department.
And when we are talking about housing, there is a big cost that goes with this. So for our viewers at home, how can they help the Atlanta Police Foundation?
Well, I think you're going to put on your screen a text to give, and of course, citizens here in the city of Atlanta, as well as the businesses here in Atlanta, are really the key to our support in making the programs of the Police Foundation go. So, citizens, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to come support the Police Foundation, come work with the Police Foundation. We're going to be building a youth center on the west side as well. We're going to need volunteers to help build the center as well. All of those are ways you can help, and obviously donations help as well. But the bottom line is this: we've created what we believe is the top police foundation in this country. The chief and mayor and I are very proud of that, and I think that's a tribute to those of you all in the audience and the businesses here in Atlanta and the support that you give us in trying to build a safer city.
Well, thank you for being here, and also thank you for all of the Atlanta Police Foundation is doing in our community. Jovita?
All right, Craig, thank you. Now, in the midst of what seems like nonstop tragedy all around this country and around the world, there has been a call for people to turn to their faith. We didn't start with a prayer tonight, but we could have. Joining me now is Dr. Raphael Warnock of Atlanta's historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, along with Reverend Eric Lee of Roswell United Methodist Church. Dr. Warnock, let me ask you, for people who are asking why is this happening, when we see senseless violence all around this country and around the world, what do you say to them? What's your response to that?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to recognize that we live with violence all the time. Poverty is its own form of violence. And America made a bad set of public policy decisions as we witnessed the decline of industry, if you will, in this country. As we moved into a post-industrial age, joblessness in our inner cities, we decided to invest in the carceral state, prison industrial complex. The land of the free is the incarceration capital of the world. We warehouse 25% of the world's prisoners. Nobody comes close to us. We have a greater percentage of our black population in prison than did South Africa at the height of apartheid. And so we need to love one another, but we don't need to be naive and sentimental when we speak about love. Justice is what love looks like in public. And so as long as we have mass incarceration and our prison system is increasingly privatized, we will continue to see the kind of tragedy that we saw in Baton Rouge, that we saw in Dallas, unfortunately and tragically. These events are tragic, but I submit that they are predictable and inevitable until we deal with this issue of mass incarceration in America. As long as we make this an issue between the police and the communities. While there are issues there to be resolved, I think in a real sense we've missed the point. The police are carrying out the practices that are informed by bad public policy, carried out over the last 35 or 40 years. The criminal justice system in our country is the one sector of our society that's worse than it was before Dr. King marched down a single street. And so we've got to fix that. The good news is that there is some kind of consensus and agreement on both sides of the aisle that this needs to be fixed. In fact, some of our red state governors are leading the way. I like some of the things that our governor is doing on this point. I don't say that often, but I agree. I agree with him on some of those reforms. But our Congress is still sitting on this criminal justice reform bill. I want to applaud the mayor for holding it down in terms of the danger that is there in a state that has the worst gun laws on the books. So we need criminal justice reform. We need reasonable gun reform. Justice is what love looks like in public.
All right, Dr. Warnock, thank you for that. And I'm sure that Dr. Warnock would say being registered to vote and making your voice heard in November is one way to change that.
We got to register to vote. We've got to show up, and we need young people to show up to the polls. You hold the power in your hands. We can make a difference in this country. And I want to thank the young people for raising the issue. They are raising the right issue, but you've got to be disciplined, nonviolent, focused, and peace is not the absence of tension. It is the presence of justice. We need healthy tension so that change can come.
Dr. Warnock, thank you. And Reverend Lee, you lead a ministry that encourages people from different backgrounds to work together, talk together. We talked about having cultural informants. Seems like we need that now more than ever. So what are you doing in telling your congregation and other members outside of your congregation?
Well, Jovita, Reverend Dr. Mike Long, who's the senior minister at Roswell United Methodist Church, had a vision a couple of years ago for a new movement within the church for future generations. And so I was appointed to the church to be the pastor who would start what we call now Chapel Roswell. And we knew that if we were going to be relevant to future generations, then we had to involve all the races, ethnicities, colors of skin that are in our country and in our world and in our city. And so in order for us to do that, we put people in places of leadership. So our worship director is Latino. We have mixed race individuals and multi-ethnic blended families represented in our leadership. We just got our first clergy intern, a young African-American female who's a pastor in training, and we've even got a few Aussies. I like to listen to them talk. But it's more than just for show. I mean, that is intentional because we all have a voice, we all have something to add. It's beautiful when we get people of different races and nationalities together to worship God and to lead in our communities. And it creates the opportunity to have the conversations that we've been talking about here tonight, where you put people together from different backgrounds, and we can share our experiences, learn from each other, and grow. And I'll say, we are all God's children. Every single one of us in Atlanta, in Georgia, and around the world, we're all God's children. And at the end of the day, God says we have faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of those is love. And I agree with Dr. Warnock that love lived out is justice. Yeah, let justice roll down. Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend Lee. We'll be right back.
I'm Carol Sparge, an anchor and reporter for Channel 2 Action News. I've been covering local news here for 24 years. I'm a mom of two, and on the weekends I enjoy hiking, yoga, and traveling. I also support pancreatic cancer research, and I'm dipping my toes into hip-hop dance. Don't just judge what you see, get to know me. Join the conversation, use hashtag #GetToKnowMe to share your story. Channel 2 community coverage you can count on.
Northside Hospital Cancer Institute is a leading provider of finding ladybugs, with interdisciplinary teams that lead to finding your voice. People from across Georgia trust Northside with their melanoma care, making Northside one of the fastest growing melanoma programs in the state. Northside Hospital, where the extraordinary happens every day.
You hear that? That's the sound of our summer sale firing up its engines, with fares as low as $69 one way. So get ready to take off, because sale prices as low as these don't happen every day. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Low fares, nothing to hide. That's transparency.
This summer, zero in on a Nissan. Save big with 0% for 72 months on Altima and Rogue, and no payments for 90 days. Plus, get $500 bonus cash, or save up to $3,000 on the 2016 Altima. Hurry, now's the time to zero in on big savings. 0% financing, no payments for 90 days, and $500 bonus cash ends soon.
Your home, your auto. They just go together. Combine your home and auto insurance with State Farm. Save time and money. Just another way we're here to help life go right. Talk to your State Farm agent today.
TitleMax makes it easy to turn your title into cash. Just go to TitleMax.com. Find out how much you can get.
Using TitleMax, I got $1,400.
$3,200.
TitleMax got me $9,700.
Have a pawn with a competitor? Come in and compare rates. We'll meet or beat a competitor's rate. Try TitleMax for the amount you need. Find out why so many people are saying,
I got my title back with TitleMax.
Get your title back with TitleMax.
Live from the National Center for Civil and Human Rights in downtown Atlanta, Atlanta Unite continues with Channel 2 anchors Jovita Moore and Craig Lucy.
So tonight we all joined here for a conversation on race relations, police, the community. We heard your concerns and your fears. We talked about change. We also talked about solutions.
And Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed has been with us all night. Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed, I want to ask you your final thoughts on how we can now move forward.
My final thoughts are that we can't take a mission accomplished approach. We all collectively have to view this as gardening, as creating a beautiful garden that requires constant work, constant improvement, and working at it every single day. So let's listen, and then let's act every single day to work on this wonderful garden that is the city of Atlanta.
Chief Turner, let me ask you this. Will this spark new conversations within your police departments about race relations?
Well, I think as we prepare for our Georgia Chiefs Association meeting just next week, I know that there'll be a significant amount of conversations around our relationship with our community. I'm confident that if we continue to work on our integrity, our professionalism, and the dedication to the oath that we've all sworn to serve and protect, and have the courage to run into situations when most people are retreating, we will have the kind of conversation and dialogue that pushes forward and provide real solutions to what we're trying to do with our race relations, not just in this city, but throughout the state and our nation.
Okay.
Well said.
Mary, I want to get your attention for a minute with Black Lives Matter. I know that we heard you at the beginning of this show when we started at 8 o'clock. From what you've heard tonight, what do you think about going forward in the city of Atlanta?
I think that black people have a mandate in this time. Black people have a mandate in this time. And the mandate for black people in this time is to avenge the suffering of our ancestors and to earn the respect of future generations and be willing to be transformed in the service of the work. This here is just one step to many steps that we have to take, and it's going to take all black people and all those who have an interest in actually seeing black folks really be liberated to do something about it, to organize, 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 hands down. And when the people get ready to move, they'll move.
Mary, thank you. Craig?
And as you just said, it's just one step, and that is why we're here tonight. Al Vivian, you've been listening to this conversation all night. Your final thoughts?
I had the blessed opportunity to facilitate and moderate the mayor's conversation the other day with the civic activists, and it just reaffirmed what I've always thought and what I've heard here tonight. It takes listening. listening, 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 and then become comfortable being uncomfortable. We got to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. And the last and final thing is love. We have to love each other. We got to listen to each other and connect across our cultural differences.
Al, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Now, Channel 2's Facebook has also been following this conversation on social media, our social media challenges, channels, excuse me. Yes. Channel 2's Fred Blankenship has been monitoring that. He joins us now live from our newsroom.
Jovita, and people were really involved in the conversation all night. Just a couple of questions and comments from a viewer on Facebook is there a plan to work with suburban police departments regarding issues as so many people work in Atlanta and live in suburbs? That's Denise Lobodensky. From a viewer on Twitter, with so many people who have a license to carry a weapon, what do you do when you get pulled over and your weapon is with you? That's from Yolanda Jackson. A lot of questions right here. This conversation is just being started, but hopefully it's been beneficial tonight. You see, very interesting conversation on Channel 2. Learned a lot about the importance of organization. Atlanta Unite. We want you to use that hashtag Atlanta Unite to stay involved in this conversation. Also the hashtag Get to Know Me. Please send us a 25-second video talking a little bit about you. Say your name, what you do, and something unique about you that we might not be able to see. This is a very productive start, but it certainly is not the end. Jovita, back to you.
Fred, thank you. And Atlanta Unite was trending on all of the social media platforms earlier. And part of moving forward, as we've been talking about tonight, is getting to know each other.
That's right. As you've been hearing throughout this night over the past hour and a half, despite our differences, we have to respect one another. We have to talk to each other. We have to listen to each other. We don't want the conversation to stop here. We invite you to join our campaign that we're starting, Get to Know Me, on social media. You can use the hashtag Atlanta Unite to send us short videos of yourself. Something Craig talked about it, Fred talked about it earlier, about 20, 25 seconds to talk about who you are, your name, your occupation, what you feel is unique about you, and we may use your videos on our social media platforms.
And we want to thank our audience members, Mayor Kasim Reed, Chief George Turner, and all of our guests for joining us tonight in our conversation to help Atlanta unite.
That's right. I saw people here tonight exchanging phone numbers and business cards. We want to keep that conversation going. I like what Al Vivian said about having your cultural informant. So if there's someone next to you that you don't know, get to know them. If there's someone of a different race or religion, now's the time to get started and get to know them. Of course, we have to thank our news partners, photographer John Spink with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, for many of the pictures that you saw through tonight's show. We leave you tonight with a look at some of the moments from tonight's program.
There was one young woman who said that our police officers should change rotations who have difficult beats. So, for example, she said if you've got an officer who always has a challenging beat, that officer probably should be rotated so they're not constantly in a situation where they are having challenging neighborhood interactions. I thought that was very thoughtful.
How can we make sure that our police officers have what they need to protect us? And what can we do to get people in these communities who have the most crime, to have those kids have enough inspiration to want to be a police officer, to come back and help police their own neighborhoods?
We now have a good opportunity to really try to engage our officers with peer counseling, as well as our chaplain program, as well as counseling through the Atlanta EAP program. And we understand that there are always challenges.
You know, we keep praying, keep pushing and fighting to eventually get to where we keep, want to go, and where we will have that level of equality that we strive for. But it's very frustrating.
I guess it's that conversation about when people say, well, all cops aren't bad. Well, I need the good cops to say something. Don't let fear stop you from doing what's right. So if you see things happening within your precinct, within your team, you didn't take an oath of blue on blue, blue protect blue. You took an oath to serve and protect the people.
The reality is that this has been happening to the Latin American community as well, and we should be recognizing that this is not a plight of just the black community. This is a plight that we share as brothers and sisters in this community.
The real threat to public safety is our people not being able to work, because nobody's caring when the homeless folks are walking up the side of the freeway asking for money, and that's real.
Citizens, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to come support the Police Foundation, come work with the Police Foundation. We're going to be building a youth center on the west side as well. We're going to need volunteers to help build the center as well. All of those are ways you can help.